or we would like to welcome you as well. I guess most of you have met one or the other of us too already, because we more or less got in touch with you, or with some of you, and we've been in touch with a lot of people related to Zephyr in the last couple of years since we started working on that technology. And some of you, like you, were coming from academia, and that's also how we felt and how that idea was born, that we might also need a space where you can connect one another, and we also found interesting things that you were looking into, or that you also were thinking about bringing it to education. That's mainly for Lenka, which, as Stefan already mentioned, unfortunately couldn't make it in person today, but we'll hear more from her later. And now we are not from university, although we have been at university, but it's more than 20 years ago, I'm afraid. So we're not active researchers, but we kept our open mind, I hope, in a sense that in the last 20 years that we've been doing industry projects, we were always geared towards open technologies, and that's the statement that you brought on that slide. And that's something we genuinely believe in, that the moment you open technologies and the moment you make it freely accessible, you can unleash more innovative power, and you can see the technology being used in ways that you couldn't foretell, that you couldn't foresee yourself, because people would start to put things together in previously unknown ways. So to foster that, I think open technologies are great, and that's why we also think that we need to bring that into the universities and into the academia world as well. For us, Zephyr as a technology has become, or is a paradigm shift in the way we do embedded development in industry and in products. It is really a step up from the traditional ways that we used to, and that's what we also tell our clients. But then we also see three problems, or three points where I think we still need to stay in touch with the research institutes. But before that, there is another one from you that you wanted to highlight. And that is just a restatement that what we're doing, we are in a good tradition of bringing together industry and research in that way, in this forum, as we do it in the next day and a half. That has already been done in the 60s and 70s for the very first operating system. So it's not that it's completely new that research and industry walk hand in hand, and that the innovation is actually coming from universities. And last but not least, we're here in Jena. And Jena also, I think a few words have to be said about Jena and why we're here, because we are in the epicenter of photonics. So basically this is the successor of what was started 100 years ago in the city by these three gentlemen, most notably Carl Zeiss, who founded this world-renowned company and is now at the forefront of every silicon chip manufacturing company. That all started here, and he got support by two researchers and professors, Otto Schott and Ernst Abbe, and they founded what we call the optics industry, and that was really happening here in Jena, and that also was a very fruitful collaboration between institutes, universities, and industry. So we think we are acting in their spirit, in their mind. We're not doing optics, obviously, we're doing software. But software is also a relevant technology these days in pretty much everything that affects our daily lives. And now I'd like to come back to the 3 points that I said that I find most relevant to why we're here with you together from industry and universities. The first, obviously, is that we are really looking for talent. Many companies are looking for talent, for engineers who are able to make use of these technologies. So we need to start educating them as early as we can, and the more the technologies they are being taught in the university does match with what the companies eventually need, the more fluent this transition becomes from university into a professional job. So educating on Zephyr, or educating on modern embedded development practices, is obviously something we really need in the industry. The second is that, and Nicole alluded towards that, we see a lot of activities going on in Zephyr, and there are many things that need to be done in Zephyr which haven't been done before, particularly when it comes to safety, as Nicole was highlighting. So we need fresh ideas. The project also needs people from academia, from research, to look into new ways to solve problems like how can we testify, how can we provide the evidence in an open source project that something is safe and secure to be used, because people will use it in products nonetheless. But how can we, as a society, as a community, make sure that it is indeed safe and secure, or what needs to happen to make it safe and secure? So I think there are still to be discovered ways of how to do verification in an open source project, because previously, as Nicole said, that was all paper driven. But that doesn't work in the complex world as that we live in, and that doesn't work for the software stacks that we are talking to. Now, Zephyr, as you know, is an operating system for microcontrollers, and like 10, 15 years ago, these microcontrollers were not connected, and they were running a few thousand lines of code. And for this scenario, our safety and security standards were written for the embedded world. And they do not match with today's expectations. They do not match with the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of lines of code that are even in Zephyr. If you look into the Zephyr repository, you'll find 2 million lines of code just in the core repository. So it's not amenable, it's not feasible to do it in the traditional way. So we need these fresh ideas. And there are many unknowns still in Zephyr because it hasn't been studied in detail by universities. Although I just did a count on Google Scholar, the number of papers being published on Zephyr as a research topic is steadily growing. So I think we're also hitting some sweet spot there as well. And the last thing, and we'll have talks about that too, right? We'll see today talks where people like you studied some aspect of Zephyr in great detail. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this. And then the third point is that in research, Zephyr could be used the same way we use it in the industry, in our products, as a stepping stone for actual research problems, so that you do not need to reinvent the wheel. And we also have talks on that one, where people just started using Zephyr just as a tool to actually facilitate their research. So that's the third option, that you can work with Zephyr to make your research work, whatever it is, easier and simpler. And these are the three topics that we'd like to allude to. And eventually, it might come all together in this way and be brought back into the industry, into the products that we use in our daily lives. And that's why I'm also very glad that we have the next speaker from Carl Zeiss, from the research development here. Moritz will give us an insight. He is basically from the R&D department in 2025 of that company. And we will hear from him now what you're doing with Zephyr, just to give us some motivation of why it's relevant, what we're talking about. I'm very glad to have you. Moritz, the stage is yours.